We don't worry for tomorrow. No, I hire, I provide.
Kelly spraying through the Benjis, nigga.
Me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, yeah, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, yeah, me and the mosaic. I'm so low, my walk on that road is me and the mosaic. I'm so low, my walk on that road is me and the mosaic. Me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, yeah, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, yeah, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic. Father who art in heaven, what it take to keep you from us? Just a little leaven. Spread the gospel through the hood, doing it through rapping. Feel just like me and God trapping souls, bringing the truth to the people, telling what they never been told. You sitting on gifts you were giving and doing nothing with them. I swear that you niggas is bold. It's bad that you know. I know that some of you think that I'm playing with completion. I'm not. I'm ready to drop. Been whipping the work in the studio, serving it out to the block. Kwam, rah. Tried to live life on my own and I found that it's not what I thought. A place to a higher, but Hashem, you shy of my soul. Not for said it was already booked. I'm ready for y'all to stop trying to stop easy, trying to say he's wicked when really he not. It's really a plot for Judah to hate you in the dark to try to come take what you got. Woo, listen, the truth hit hard, harder than a gamble. Better be known as a saint than your favorite rapper. Michael Jackson band, no melodrama. Random, but it's still just me and the mosaic. Me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, yeah, me and the mosaic, yeah, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, yeah, me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic. I'm so low, my walk on this road is me and the mosaic. I'm so low, my walk on this road is me and the mosaic. Me and the mosaic, me and the mosaic, me and the.
Shalom, 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 y'all. It's Michael Israel. You're watching Spiritual Combat. And as you can see, I have my brother Daniel Muir here. This is Straitway Indie in the building. And we're going to have an awesome conversation today. Me and brother Daniel, we had talked for a little while, probably about 2 weeks ago. And he was just discussing some aspects of his career and really what it takes to overcome and excel. And I think there's just going to be a lot of heavy information that's going to be put out here that's going to be beneficial to Israel. But with that said, hey, shalom, brother Daniel. It's awesome to have you on the show.
Shalom, shalom, my brother. Bless you.
And first of all, I want to congratulate you on finally getting on your land. When'd you move? When'd you get out there? And how has it been thus far?
Oh man, we got out here. We've been out here about a little bit over 2.5 weeks now. And it's been an experience. You know, anybody that moves, you know, it's a lot to get unpacked. You know, you just feel like you just packed it, which you did, so you're unpacking it. And then, you know, but we've been getting it done, man. You know, we've been unpacking everything in the house and trying to get things in order. And then doing a lot of yard work as well. I mean, me and the brothers, man, we was chainsawing trees all day today on the land, man, chopping up wood and, you know, getting those things done because we got a whole lot of land that we need to clear. So we've been getting after it.
I know you getting out there was pretty timely with all this coronavirus and all this stuff going on. And you know, how did it feel with the timing to be out from among the people?
Well, I tell you, it's nothing but the Father. It is nothing but the Father. You know, I was speaking to the brothers here and the sisters here, and the night before we moved, because I mean, I literally closed on both places in one day.
Wow.
And the night before, we had, I mean, a couple of days before, I had gotten 2 of the biggest U-Hauls, and we packed up, you know, the entire house, put it out there. So there was nothing left in the house. So only thing we had left was some pillows and a blanket, and everybody slept on the floor. And we got out, and the next morning, right before we were getting ready to drive some stuff up to the new house, you know, I just was just so amazed at the favor of the Most High and how he just works. And that's just been the conversation around here the last couple of weeks, is just the little things that you don't realize, that you may overlook. And you don't realize just how much the Father has taken care of you, how much the Father is literally right on time. And the way he did it, you know, was just so awesome, man. And I was just reminding, you know, the saints here of that, just saying, you know, when you look at, you know, we always reminded the Most High of how he took our forefathers out of Egypt with such a mighty hand. And, you know, I always tell them that, you know, not let those things become cliche. Don't let those things become cliche, because if you allow that, you'll do the same thing in your life. Because the way the Father took us out of that city and got us out here in this country was with a mighty hand, was with a stretched out hand to his people. And it's just amazing to see how he did it. Right before all of this mess is going on out here in this world right now, he got us to a place where we are way outside the city. I mean, we got everything that we need. I mean, a lot of stored food and water and all those things, you know, and go in my front yard and pump water. You know, it's just a blessing on so many fronts, so many fronts. So the Father, he's just awesome, just awesome.
And the thing, like for someone like me, like, I think that was, maybe that was Friday. I'm not sure what day that was, but y'all was, I guess y'all was leaving from downtown Indy and you were singing Country Road or something like that. But for me, it was awesome for me to know what y'all was doing and for that to be documented and be able to be seen, because it lights a fire under someone like me to follow, you know what I'm saying, that example that's being set. And I'm going to tell you, now, y'all hear that, but when you hear with this brother, like I've talked to Brother Daniel, I've talked to Brother Rob Mathis, Brother Gideon, like all these brothers, they function on high levels under high level people. And these brothers got the recipe for excellence, and his book is biblical. It lines up with the book. And I mean, I promise y'all are in store for a very eye-opening show. Like if you're struggling with stuff and everything like that, I think this show is really going to help you out. So Brother Daniel, if you could, just real briefly, let's start off real briefly with your NFL career and then how you came into the truth and everything like that. Just go into that real quick, and then we'll dive in to the topic of this show. So go ahead.
Okay, well, I mean, real quick, I mean, it was really my NFL career, man. I left Washington, D.C. and Maryland area in 2002. Went to Kent State University. I was never really, let me say this way. I was a football guy, but I was never really like one that was always saying, man, I got to go to the NFL. I got to go to the NFL. Really, those things wasn't in my mind. It was just, I wanted to be the best at wherever spot I was at. And the way the NFL happened was just really, I had a great career up at Kent State. And the way the NFL happened was me going home on one of the breaks right after the season. And I was working out in the gym, and a guy saw me and asked me, he knew me from around the neighborhood, and asked me if I had an agent. I said no. He got me in touch with one. The agent saw some of my film, and then he literally said right after that, "You're going to play on Sundays." Now, I was late in the game when it came to the whole recruiting process, and I didn't understand none of that. But I got an opportunity as an undrafted guy, wasn't drafted, got an opportunity to play with the Green Bay Packers. And I made the team my rookie year. And then the next year I left and I went to the Indianapolis Colts, and I was here for 4 years. Then I went to the New York Jets for a year. And then I went to the Oakland Raiders for a year. And after that, it was one of those things like I kind of knew my career was over with. I was really the last year and a half of my career, I was really like knee deep in Christianity. But it was very frustrating. And most of y'all know the stories, because I used to just get mad because I would read my Bible. I would read and study my Bible, man. And I wasn't seeing none of these things that this Bible was talking about. Not in my own life, not in the churches I was going to. So right when I was done playing, I started public speaking all over the United States. And I mean, from factories to schools to churches to, everywhere I was just speaking with this company. But what became really, really frustrating, like I said, is I always used to make the statement like, Christians don't read this Bible. I would always say that. And then people would be like, you're a Christian. And it got to the point I got so frustrated. I was like, nah, I'm not a Christian. I'm just a man of God. Like I always used to say that as well. And really coming into the truth was two statements that I read. Number one was, the works that I do, you will do also, and greater works than these I'll do because you go to the Father. Because Jesus said, you'll do because I go to the Father. And I was like, okay. So I had to evaluate. I'm like, Jesus raised the dead. He healed the sick. He cast out demons. He did all of these. Fed thousands of people with, with just a few fish and some barley loaves, all of these things. And I was like, okay, he's not a liar. I know that what he's doing, what he said you would do, I'm not doing it. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? Nor the churches I'm going to, am I seeing them do it? But then the statement that really got me was one that you hear often around this ministry is in Mark, which we know that he says that these signs will follow them that believe. He said, in my name, they cast out demons. They speak with new tongues. And as you read these statements, I was like, okay, wait a minute. You lay hands on the sick, you see them recover. I'm like, okay, hold on. Not only is this not happening at the church I'm going to, or any of the churches I went to, none of the places I've spoken, but most importantly, I'm not doing these things. And Jesus said, these signs will follow them that believe. So I'm like, you can't deny that. So I had to be real with myself, man. And it was very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. And I just began to really just cry out to the Father because I wanted to know. I said, there's got to be something more. What am I missing? What am I missing? And the way that happened is literally one day I was in my kitchen and I was in the house by myself, and it was as plain as day. What came to my heart was, you don't even know what sin is. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. And I knew at that point, I said, I got to define biblically what sin is. I can't listen to mama. I can't listen to dad. I can't listen to no preachers. None of the people I've met, nothing. I got to know what sin is, what this word says sin is. And obviously, you find that in 1 John, right? For he says, for sin is a transgression of the law. So at that point, I'm like, okay, hold on. So I really just started going back to the law. I started reading the first 5 books of this Bible. And the question that kept arising was, why wouldn't anyone want to do this? This is good. And right after that, is when me and Kabir would talk like every couple months, you know what I mean? And right after that, that's when Kabir whole situation went down. But when I was speaking with him the first time, he was telling me, I'm going to send you something. And that's when he sent me that Pastor Dow video. And it wasn't a long video at all. But as you know, Pastor Dow is straightforward. And in that video, like I always say, it felt like I'm like, man, who is this guy talking to? Like, that's kind of the way I felt. I'm like, man, who is he talking to? So I was like, man, I read this Bible. I'm going to prove him wrong, you know? And I started reading and going over what he was saying, and I couldn't prove him wrong. I could not prove him wrong. And, you know, one of the statements he always makes, he says, you know, I know you don't like the way I speak, but I possibly don't like the way you listen. And then he also said, he says, you think I'm your enemy, but you're going to find out that I'm your best friend. And I was like, okay. So I really started watching pastors' videos and really going back to the word with everything. Because that was one thing about me. I got to the point where I didn't want to, I met so many phony pastors and preachers. I remember one time I was speaking, I want to say it was in Ohio somewhere. And a guy was telling me, one of the pastors at this church, he was telling me, well, these people, he said, this is a brand new church and they're unchurched. He said, so really, I'm just going to ask you basically, are you saved? And then we're going to talk about football. And that was literally it. And I remember like stuff like that would just, it would make me so mad. I'm like, man, not only is my soul at stake, people's soul is at stake. Why is football so important? You know, so that's how I came into the faith, man, was being, getting offended for a minute and trying to prove Pastor wrong, but I couldn't. And literally after that, just like most people, I wanted to meet him. And I had an opportunity to go down to Passover, and I went after further research, because I looked up all of the, you know, the rumors and allegations and all those things. And I said, okay, you know, this stuff is obviously foolishness. So I went down for Passover, and I've never experienced nothing like that in my life. Never in my life. And you pretty know, you got the same thing when you go down a Straitway. Most people, when they go the first time, it's just like, oh my goodness, you know?
Yeah.
So I went down there, and that's how it happened, man. And right then and there, I knew right there, I said, this is the place for me. This is it. Because nobody else is living it. Nobody is living this word like this small community of people. Nobody. So that's how that pretty much happened.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we you now talk a little bit about you know, Straitway Indian, your position there, because that's going to kind of bring us into the whole topic of what we're talking about today.
You said, well, my position, I'm at the end of the day, man, I'm a servant. I'm a servant. And you know, from listening to the last few Shabbats, that's exactly what Shepherd has been talking about. Just being a servant.
Right.
The way that it happened was with Elder Becker grabbing me like this. Who was at my first tabernacles? Some foolishness happened, and I was so upset. Man, I was so mad. And Elder Becker grabbed me like this. And he said, he looked at me and he said, you gonna stop it. He said, I live here. And then he looked at me and said, you're gonna be a leader in Israel one day. And obviously when he said that to me, that shook me to my core, because I was like, like, I was like, all right, you know. And then after that, Elder Mitchell took me off, and, you know, we were just speaking, and he was talking to me at the time. But really, right after that, Elder Becker started, you know, having people call me. It was in Indiana. If they was in Indiana, he would call me and say, hey, I got a brother, I want you to speak to him. Hey, I got a sister, I want you to speak to him. You know, they're looking for fellowship, you know, the whole nine. So I just started making calls. When he would tell me to, I would follow up with the person. I'd call them one time, have a conversation, and I would follow up again and see how serious they are. Sometimes I would be like, yeah, I'd rather go meet this person. Sometimes you can really tell immediately how much they want to fellowship and they want to be around. They got that hunger in them. And that's how that happened, man. And I mean, obviously then I got a faithful brother, man, in his household, Brother Samuel, who, I mean, they were there from the first time we had a Shabbat at my house, and they still here now. They here in the house now. Younger brother, very, very wise brother. And he's been around ever since. So he obviously helped me too, as well as, I mean, to see what and how the ministry functions with the homesteads, you know. So that helped out a lot too. And then faithful brothers just started coming around, man. Brother Lee, he started coming. He came into the faith, you know, shortly after I did. And young brother, hardworking brother, who just continues, man. He's here right now, you know, faithful brother. Then after that, Brother Rob came in. And y'all don't know Brother Rob's story. Brother Rob, as soon as he met Shepherd and got deliverance and received the baptism of the Holy Spirit, Rob's been on fire ever since. And he's here right now. You know what I mean? So it's just been just faithful people. And then you've had families that continue to come. We have some people come, some people leave. I mean, it's the same thing that you I'm pretty sure everybody else is experiencing as well. But as far as a position here, I mean, obviously, just being real about it, people, they ask me things. They know I'm their leader here. But at the end of the day, like Shep has been saying, I'm a servant. That's what I am. I'm a servant.
Right. When me and Rob were talking a couple weeks ago, though, he was just elaborating on things he had learned in his NFL career, because he was on a Super Bowl team. I don't follow a whole bunch of sports, but I do remember when the Colts, you know, they were dominating, and he played under Coach Tony Dungy, and you know, Rob and Brother Muir have talked about how good of a leader Tony Dungy was. I don't know if he still coaches, but one of the things and I'm gonna have you talk about it. We'll start off where you were telling me how most teams, I think you said, have like a playbook of 30 plays, but Tony Dungy only had like 4 or 5. Is that right?
Yeah, at times, if we had, we would always go into a work week if we get ready to play somebody, and obviously the coaches would meet a day before and they would break down film, and they've been breaking down film on whatever team we get ready to play for weeks and months, and they would come up with the game plan. But Tony Dungy was extremely efficient in everything that he did. He had a saying that he would always say, where he would say, "I'm going to break things down to its lowest common denominator." So whatever you do good, that's what we're going to do. If we put 10 plays in or 30 plays in, if we are really good at 7 of them, but the rest are average, he'll throw away 23 of them. We're going to run 7 plays. It just is what it is. It was always about getting to what we do well, doing the basic things. Because at the end of the day, that's what football is, right? I mean, I look at my position as a defensive tackle. I had one job. That was to get in a good stance, fire off the ball, and whatever's in front of me, punch it in the mouth. Bottom line. And everything else will take care of itself. You see, and that I knew if I did those things consistently every single play, chances are I would have a good play. So Tony Dungy was just like that. He would have a time limit on practice. We would come into practice with a script of what we were going to do. But when that time ran out, it ran out. So if it was, you can say 2 hours. If we did not finish, he would say, hey, 2 hours is up. We didn't finish this play and this play and this play. We're going to review it, and we're going to let you know by the morning if we're going to do it or not. If we got through the whole entire script, he would have it down to the second. I mean, he'd be like, hey, we just finished practice. We finished the script. It was 1 hour and 57 minutes and 19 seconds. And we finished everything in practice. And that's just what it was. He would have it down to the second. And one thing I also know is he would never do extra. Whatever he planned for that day, that's what we were going to do. And he made sure we did that. We did no extra. Now, if you were a player and you wanted to stay out and do extra, that was your choice. But he always stuck to exactly what was planned. Again, bringing it back to his original thing that he would always say, which was, we're going to break things down to its lowest common denominator. And whatever we do well, that's what we're going to do.
So, because I forgot, I probably asked you this when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but what was the purpose of keeping the practices to the exact second? Like the time, I don't understand. What's the reason for that?
Well, you have an allotted amount of time to be on the field, and a lot of coaches, obviously, you're dealing with a multi-billion-dollar industry, so they're gonna find their way to manipulate it, and you're gonna do extra, you're gonna do this, you're gonna spend more time in meetings, more time on the practice field, whatever. But he just ran things according to his system.
Okay.
So when we were done, when we were done with what they planned, we were done. He never put no more in, no less. We were done with just that. So that's how he functioned.
Okay. Now talk about like where you're talking about the reason behind the importance of him making simple expectations and boiling it down. You said to the bare essentials. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, when he would have his simple expectations. Now they weren't simple in function. We still had to go do them. You know, it was still a taxing, job. You still had to go do it. It wasn't easy, but he didn't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of just foolishness. At the end of the day, it was really the whole NFL, the whole football. If you were a good player, you're able to take direction. That's all it was. At the end of the day, they were able to tell you to do something, and if you did it better than the next person, they were going to roll with you. That's just how it is. Literally, you take direction. You don't put your 2 cents in, put an extra cup of flour, extra cup of sugar. No, you do things to the recipe. Whatever the recipe says, that's what we do. Especially if they've had success doing it. You see what I mean? At this time when I came to the Colts, we was the hot team in the NFL. We was whooping everybody. And for the next 4 years, we whooped everybody while it was there as well, because that system was in play. You understand what I mean? So it was never doing something out of the ordinary, all this exotic stuff. It was always, this is the formula. This is what we do. Can you do it or not? Are you going to follow direction? That's really all it is.
Now, talk about, I know Rob talked about it too. Talk about it, what he would do if people didn't do what was expected of them.
Oh, he's going to get rid of you. One thing about Coach Dungy is he didn't, I've never seen the man yell. I've never seen him, up in a player's face, cussing them out or anything like that. But you knew, players and coaches knew, whatever he said he was going to do, that was it. If you did certain things that, would get you in trouble or embarrass the organization or however they, would term, the consequence was guaranteed. Whatever he said, that's what it was. So, and it wasn't a hard place to play in. Actually, we had a lot of fun. Obviously, winning makes things fun, but we worked hard. When we got our work done, it was an easy atmosphere because, again, everybody knew what was expected of you. You had the playbook. You do what's in the playbook, and that's it. You make it as simple as possible.
Now tie that back into this book and this walk and tour. How did you see a lot of similarities between those? Between that? It's
the exact same thing, except now you're not playing for a Super Bowl. You're playing for your salvation. You're playing to get to the kingdom. So the severity obviously goes through the roof, but at the same time, it's still the same thing. It's directions. Can you take direction? And this is not Coach Dungy. This is the Most High. And we know that his direction. He's never lost a game. He's never showed up late. He's never done anything that's going to cost you. All he wants you to do is follow him and do exactly what he says. It's simple. And the good thing too, even about the way sports ties in to this, is say you were a guy and you may have messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may have messed up, but if you were known as a guy that was always trying to do what was right anyway, that's where your grace comes in. Okay, they messed up. We live in our flesh. You're gonna mess up. At times you mess up, but again, it's always, let me go back to this playbook. And that's the same thing with the word, is going back to the Torah. Every single time, go back to the instructions and do things just do exactly what is expected of you. And the good ones, they spend the time that's extra. I think when we spoke on the phone, I gave you an example of Peyton Manning. Peyton, I mean, he would, them little spiral notebooks, I think they got like 120 pages in them. He would have those spiral notebooks. He would literally fill out one every week. And say we played another team that the coach left that team and went to another team. If we played that team that the coach was with last year, and we may have played them last year, Peyton already had a book on him and how he ran his scheme and how he did this. And then he would fill out another one.
Wow.
You understand what I mean? So the guys that did extra were still, they elevated even quicker. And it's the exact same thing in the word. Whoever burns that midnight oil, whoever gets up early and praying and reading, the desire is more and more there for them to get closer and closer and closer to the Most High. And like Pastor always says, you can see who's doing that.
Wow.
Because their level of play goes up. And
it's literally that simple, like, because I always be quoting that scripture, you'll know them by their fruits, but it's literally when you're dealing with people where you got one person who's doing good and one who's not, it's literally like a math equation that it's a work. Because I know people will say it's the talk, when they're talking, it's everything else. But what you're saying is, from life experience that it's not whatever they're saying. It's literally comes down to that right there.
Absolutely. You see it in their action. It's just like you said, you'll know them by their fruit. You will see it in their action. Like, let's take Pastor Dow for an example, right? Pastor could preach the way he does, talk as bold as he does, but if you were to see him and go down to his house or his land and see that he's not living up to it, you'd be like, okay, wait a minute. But the simple fact that you see the way he speaks, the boldness in the way he speaks, and then when you come around him, you see how he operates. Really, his words a lot of times don't even do justice to his action, because his action is elevated so much more, because you're like, man, this man, he the way he talks, but then when you see the way he lives, it's like double of how he says it, because he works at it.
Yeah.
He works at it. You can tell that he works extremely hard in everything that he does. He's very passionate in everything that he does. So, I mean, it's just a perfect example for young men, grown men, women, people of all ages, sizes, whatever, to follow.
So on the football team, I'm sure you saw people who would come in and, I don't know, because I don't know football too good, but like they come in on the play and screw the play up or mess up and kind of screw it. Would you get those people who would make the excuses, and then how would that get dealt with? Like, how would that dynamic function in the team, under Tony Dungy's system?
Well, you didn't have a lot of chances, because people's jobs is at stake. The way somebody eats is at stake. So if you come in and you're just pretty much messing up all the time, the only way that, okay, let me say it this way. There's a lot of, if you've made it to the NFL, it's because you can play football and you can play it at a high level. However, the problem that you see, the guys that don't make it, I think the average when I was playing was 1 year and 3 games was the average NFL career.
Dang.
If you made it to 3 years, that was a good thing. If you made it to 5 years, you was like the OG.
Wow.
You was the old guy in the locker room. You know what I mean? So when you see somebody like Rob who made it 14 years, we call him granddad or something like that.
Grandpa.
but the guys that didn't make it were guys who wanted to do what they wanted to do. Wow. It's really that simple. It was guys that couldn't take direction. It was guys that wanted to question people who are successful in their role. Wow. You see that a whole lot. You may got a guy who is, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in, and he does his job very well. And then you got a youngster that comes in and wants to tell him he doesn't agree with the way he's doing it, or he's doing things the wrong way, or this is the way he would do it. And then they either, the ones who are bold would say it to him and they would get out of there quick. But usually the form that comes in is they would go around the locker room and they would go whispering in other people's ears. They would go whispering in behind the person's back that they feel, they feel that way about. Just, being like Absalom, that you read in the Word, David's son. He sitting at the gate. They would literally go around and whisper, "Man, I could do this better. This guy, he ain't this, he ain't that." But they've been in their role for years and they've done very, very well. But they wanted to do things their way. Or you see also guys who would have that you're given certain liberties, right? Or you're given certain freedoms, if you want to use that word. And then they take advantage of it, or they try to manipulate it. Those are guys that don't last long either in the league. And if you think about it, it's the exact same way in the faith. It's the exact same way in the faith. I've only been around Straitway for, right now, I came in at the end of 2017. And the people that I've seen gone have been people that wanted to do things their way. They didn't want to listen. They felt like they had a better way to do things. Or they would, again, question someone who's done it good for a very, very long time. It blows my mind when I see somebody question Shepherd. When people question Pastor Corey, when people question the elders. It's like, okay, now, is there something wrong with proving what they do? No, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's all in the intent of a man's heart. But when you get to questioning like, oh, I can do this better, or they should be doing it this way, or they should be doing X, Y, and Z. It's the exact same thing. Those are the same people that fall out. So it's a constant check your pride at the door type of deal. Make sure that you remain humble. And I make sure I do that in myself constantly. Because it's like, man, look, I done found it. I do not want to be cut off from y'all's people. I do not want to be cut off from y'all. Bottom line. So it's like, man, as Brother Rich always sings, humble yourself in the sight of Yah. Humble yourself and understand that Yahweh has been with these men in this ministry for a very, very long time. Why? Because as you said, their fruit has shown it. And it is clear for anybody that ever comes around that you can clearly see Yahweh does great and mighty works around his people. And you've seen it over and over and over here. So a lot of times people want to take advantage of the liberties. I use one for an example, polygyny. You see people like, oh, they find out it's lawful, and then they want to take advantage of it. They want to do what they want to do. Nah, man. I look at this thing. I say, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth being cut off than to do things the right way. Is there something wrong with desiring another helpmeet? No, there's nothing wrong with desiring that. But at the same time, just do it the right way. There's nothing wrong with desiring to be married, but do it the right way. because the track record of this ministry speaks for itself, because they do it according to what the book says. It's literally that simple.
And that's one of the things that when I was Rob in there said, "Oh, good talking ass." He talking about you. But look, one of the things when I came in the ministry, one of the things that did catch my attention, I was like, now look at this. I was like, you got these professional athletes here. You got like you, Kabir, and Rob, and then I'm looking at y'all, and it's like, man, I was like, and then people like Brother Gideon and people like that have their life. Someone like Gideon, his life depended on sound leadership and knowing what it is in and out. Your career, and you, Rob, and Kabir and all, y'all's career depended on seeing and knowing leadership and that whole dynamic. So speak a little bit on what, like, you see these other people, these people out here, it's like, it's like they make their decision and they evaluate things through how they feel. And then is there another group of people who actually put their feelings out of it and use their mind to see it? Is that what you would say?
I would, to a degree, yeah. I mean, it goes back a lot of times to what, one of the things we always say here. You always got to be able to evaluate things. Again, getting it to its lowest common denominator. A lot of times, we always speaking, you have truth or you have feelings. Now, is there something wrong with feeling something? No, that's natural. You feel, but there's truth and then there's feelings. Now, that's for you to be able to evaluate both and decipher which one is correct. You see what I'm saying? Now, again, if somebody does something to make you angry, the word says be angry, but sin not. So that the feeling of being angry, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it tells you sin not. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same thing, but being able to decipher between the two. Which one is feelings, which one is the truth. You got to be able to decipher between the two. And when you do things off of emotion, a lot of times that'll get you, to fall down, and you mess up and you make, rash decisions. You do things wrong. And again, I'm speaking because I would do things, off of feelings. That was one of the first things that I got rebuked for here by Elder Mitchell. Elder Mitchell flat out rebuked me and told me temperance. He said temperance. And I never forgot that. So that's something that I always try to check myself in. Is that now, again, it's being able to operate not according to your feelings, man. That's the biggest thing. And as y'all know, here at Straitway Indy, we would do just that. If we see somebody in their feelings, we poke at them feelings. We're gonna poke at them just to get you to realize how silly it is, and we're gonna laugh at you and joke, but it's like, all right, get out your feelings, man, because the goal is the kingdom at the end of the day. We got to get to the kingdom. I got to hear, well done, my faithful servant. Bottom line, period. So that is all that matters. So can't make no decisions off of feelings, no quick decisions. You got to be able to evaluate things and choose wisely.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So, so going back to tying things into the into the NFL and everything like that. When you got in the NFL, did it take? How did you learn kind of how did you learn the cadence of the NFL?
By having vets in front of me. When I was in Green Bay, one of the guys obviously I looked up to, which is in the faith, is Kabir. Kabir was a guy that was really good at his job. One of the best in the NFL. And one of the best in one of the most prestigious organizations in the NFL. But Kabir moved out of the norm from everybody else. Kabir wasn't a partier. He wasn't a clubber. He was, you know what I mean? He wasn't out drinking, drunk, and smoking weed. He wasn't doing all that mess. He had a good family life. From what we saw, he was very wise with his money. You know, those things that, you know, I wish even as a rookie I would have paid more attention to when I first met Kabir, but those things stuck out. And then when I went to Indianapolis, Rob was there. You look at Rob really didn't say nothing at all. But you saw how Rob walked, you saw how he talked. When he did say anything, you saw how he worked. And learning the cadence was pretty simple. When I first got to Indy, Rob told me to shut up. It was literally that. He came to me and he said, "I'm not a Danny Muir fan." That's what he said to me. He said, I'm not a Danny Muir fan. And that was literally, I want to say, the first 2 or 3 days I was there. Because I came from Green Bay, where it was rah, 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 you know. We was encouraged to fight, and, you know, the old lineman did anything, and, you know, we were one of them. But when I came to Indy, it wasn't that. Everything was done efficient. And Rob, that was one thing Rob told me when he first met me. After like 2 or 3 days of practice. And that thing humbled me quick.
And he was dead.
Humbled me.
He was dead ass serious?
Oh, he was dead serious.
Wow.
He was dead. You know Rob's face. Rob don't, he's just, and he said it flat out to my face. And obviously as a young guy coming in the league, second year, and then you meet Robert Mathis. It's like, dang, this Robert Mathis, Dwight Freeney. It's like, man, these two are the best. And then that's what he say to you. It humbled me real quick. I could have did two things. I could have went off the truth, or I could have went off my feelings. At the time, the truth was I was doing a whole bunch of this, but my play wasn't backing it up. At the time when I first got there. But my feelings at the time was to be like, nigga, shut up. Like, see me, you know, but I wasn't going to do it because it was the truth of what he was saying. Wow. So I had to roll with that. And that really was the reason I was able to stick around there.
Dang. And I know y'all watching. I know you see I'm kind of rotating around the circle because I'm trying to get all the meat off the bone, but talk about the importance of, like, y'all, a lot of y'all that might have went right over your head, but even in the military, and like, now I'm an aircraft mechanic, but even then they check you and they humble you. And talk about, like, how genius that is to really check somebody, because when you do something like that, you really see what somebody's made of.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Because now you're gonna see who, like you said before, is gonna get in their feelings. You're gonna see who got some fight in them. You're gonna see who has a will to get better. You're gonna see that in an individual. You know what I mean? Or you're just gonna see the person that acts out and want to hold it against you, or when they do see you, they don't want to talk, they go the other way. They, you know, grown men acting like females in the world. You know, that's because you see a whole lot of that too. You know, you see a whole lot of that when we was playing. You see grown men that can't take correction. They can't take correction.
In the NFL? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Wow.
And
their career, and I imagine their careers are short, right? Just like we said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got the guys who come in and think that they are the best thing that football ever had, not understanding that everybody's at your caliber or better. And then you come in as a young guy you come in, you single, or you may have a girlfriend or what they call, you may do, but you're on a roster now with grown men who have children and families to support. It's a whole different dynamic. So, you see both sides of it. You see both sides of it, but the ones that last are the ones that are able to take the correction, that are able to take the rebuke when it comes. And not only being able to take the rebuke, but to love the rebuke and actually understand, like, the one that rebukes me is actually showing me that they love me. They're actually showing me that they care about me, because they could just not say anything and see me destroyed in my foolishness, or they could come to me and tell me because they see something in me, or they see something in you that's like, hey, get yourself together, get right. So it's literally that.
That's that real man shit right there. Brother Rob, he's over there on, what is this? This is YouTube, I think he's on. He put real men follow leadership. I'm proud to follow Brother Dan. So that's real humility, but these dudes is real soldiers, they real warriors. You know what I'm saying? And I wanna let y'all know, you could start, if y'all have any questions, put them in there. Just one thing I ask is that you make sure you put a question mark after it so I could see it. Otherwise, I'm gonna just think it's it's a comment or something like that. But so let's go back to when we talked about boiling things down to the lowest common denominator, and how does that transfer over to, because that was a football thing that you said Tony Dungy would do, but how is that also applicable to being a leader of men in a spiritual setting or in life, being a leader? Speak on that a little bit if you could.
When I first came into the faith, I promise you, I was reading before I came into faith, I was reading the Psalms, and I thought I understood it. But I remember one of the first scriptures I heard was when Pastor spoke about Psalm 19:7, and where it says, the law of Yahweh is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Yahweh is sure, making wise the simple. Making wise the simple. Again, it's not hard. Why? Because the Messiah was literally that example. He came and he showed you that you could live according to the instructions. And again, we understand that we have a good father. I always ask people, do we have a good father? And they say, yeah, he's good. Or they say, God is good. So I say, okay, so why would he give you something that you can't follow and then judge you on it? It doesn't make sense. He gives you these things because he wants you to prosper. So again, you will be wise just to do it. One of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 111:10, where it says, the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. And it says, and a good understanding have they that do his commandments. It's literally that. If you want to have a good understanding, we know that wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And then all you're getting, get understanding. Well, if you want understanding, you must do his commandments, according to Psalm 111:10. It's literally that. So again, it's just that's the faith of the mustard seed, right? Just take the step. Just take the step to take one step. When I came into the faith, it was the Shabbat. I had no clue on what I was doing. No clue whatsoever at all. We were sitting on the couch, not moving. I was like, don't move. Everybody just sit. Like, about my wife, my children, everybody just sit. We're just going to sit here, I would go in, I would make sandwiches. I used to call them Shabbat Shalom sandwiches. I would make sandwiches on prep day. And I said, okay, at least I got children, so I'm gonna make it fun. They're gonna be able to get up in the morning and not have regular breakfast food. They just eat sandwiches. And then we would watch service, and then we would sit. I didn't understand what I was doing, but at the end of the day, I'm still learning, but at the end of the day, I just took this step. Just having a will to say, I want to do this and I want to be good at it. I don't want to just say I'm doing it. I want to be very good at this. Because number one, I want Yahweh to be pleased. And I want to be an asset and a blessing to his people. I mean, I think about when Yahweh says that David is a man after his own heart. Why wouldn't you want that compliment? Like, I want that compliment. That is the Father saying that about you. You know, now obviously David, that's on another level, but it's like work to do that. But David took a first step. He just started to obey, not overcomplicating, not whatever it says, just do it. He'll give you the understanding later. He just wants to see you do it. It's literally that simple.
And then
now again, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'll just say, going off what you were already saying, and then there's everything else, all the talk and all the other confusion and excuses and all this other stuff.
Right.
So, what did you see when you know you were on the Colts? You said y'all were the hottest team in the NFL. What was the opposite? What did you see with the teams that y'all were whooping up on, the teams that were sloppy, they were in division and all this stuff like that? And what did you see from them? Where were they off at? You know what I'm saying? And how did that, again, tie right back in the script?
The same thing that we saw, the same thing that you see is everybody wants to do what they want to do. Everybody was out for themselves. That's I remember when I went to the New York Jets, that was the most talent I've ever seen on a football team.
Wow.
I mean, that team was loaded. That team was loaded with talent, but couldn't win a game. Couldn't win no game because at the end of the day, everybody was for themselves. Everybody was for themselves. Nobody had humility enough to say, okay, here's a proven leader. Let's follow this leader. And let's just do what he does. Everybody was for themselves. And that was the nature of the organization. That's just what just continued to happen.
Wow.
Over and over and over every single week. And it translates into the same thing. When you look at the Christian church, for an example, it's the exact same thing. Everybody wants to be known as apostle, a prophet, bishop, minister, pastor. Everybody wants a title. Everybody's looking to be the next great thing. You know, everybody has a word. Every single week, somebody got a word. I got a word. God told me this. God told me that. It's always somebody wants to look. Nobody just wants to be brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so. It was always about me, 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 me. Well, that's not the way any successful program, team, function, tribe, nothing operates like that. Nothing. You got to have one who is proven, and then you follow. Just like Paul says, follow me as I follow Messiah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same thing in this day and age. We got a shepherd we got two shepherds who no other shepherds in this land you can find like it. And then you have leadership that they have delegated right underneath, that they have delegated right underneath him, who are the exact same way, great leaders. So it's like, okay, just follow. Like, it's you know what I mean? Just do what they do. I mean, one of the things that I've always said here was, whatever you see from Straitway when you're in Tennessee is the exact same thing we need to see here. Simple. We don't have to figure nothing out. We just do what we see them do. The same thing. I always tell the saints here, before we go to a feast or before we go down to Tennessee, don't let me see you get down there. And when you get down there, you start to do all this extra, like you're so busy and you moving and shaking. No. Do the same thing here. So when you get down there, it's natural. When you get down there, it's natural. You're operating exact same way. I'll give you an example. Georgia, the Georgia Saints are like that a lot. That's one thing that I've always seen from Georgia. When they get on the land, it's like they don't skip a beat. It's like there's no plan. You can tell that the exact way that they act on the land is the exact way they act in the land in Georgia. It's the same thing. Why? Because Georgia, and I've never been to Georgia, but I can guarantee if I go to Georgia, I'm going to see the exact same thing that I see at Straitway. Now, everybody has to have, in Tennessee, everybody has to tailor things based on to where they are, but it's the exact same thing. It's the same order. It's the same structure. And again, it was always, that's one thing that's always said, here is whatever we see them do at the hub is the exact same thing that we're going to do here, period.
Brother Gideon put a powerful statement in there, and it's heavy. He wrote, selfishness equals a coward in wartime. And I'm sure that directly translates to, your football time, because you kind of elaborated on that when you were talking about when you were on the one team, when you were in New York, that apparently there's a lot of selfishness and me mentality out there, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you think about what Brother Gideon just said. I was just doing it to get a W in the win column. His life was literally depending on it, and everybody around him. I heard Shepard say this a couple weeks ago, where he said, when you're in the Army, he said there is no black and white. The only color that matters is green.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that matters is green, because your life is on the line. You ain't got time for the rest of that mess. Well, you look at what it is now. Now it's our salvation is on the line. We can't be fearful of them that can hurt our body. We better be fearful of him that can hurt our body and throw our soul in the Gehenna.
Right.
So at the end of the day, our salvation depends on it. So it's literally that. It's literally that. That's a powerful statement.
Now, you talked about, you were saying how Pastor Dow said that, when you're in war, there's no black, there's no white, it's green, you're on the same team. And I know when me and you were on the phone, you talked about the connection after when you really begin to immerse yourself and apply yourself out there on the field. You talked about the connection you and Rob had out there on the field. Talk about that a little bit, because I think you were telling me you could just look at him and you already knew what was going on or something like that.
Okay, now some of the question, it got cut off. It kind of froze up or something.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear some of it.
So what I was saying is, when me and you were talking on the phone, you were saying how you were talking about you and Rob had followed the leadership out there, which was Tony Dungy, and studied the book, the playbook, to a degree where you and Rob had a connection to the point where you could just look at him and you already knew what the deal was. I wanted you to speak on that a little bit, and also tie it in the book, how it is with the scripts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. When to speak about what you're speaking about is, you would do so many reps. You would do rep after rep after rep after rep of a play, of a movement, of a game. We would run twist games on the defensive line. You could see something in the backfield and you can alert a guy, or however, through film study, you see something, and it's those things that you've done so many times over and over and over and over and over. And when you first meet somebody, you're first around somebody, you have to communicate those things verbally, right? Like, you got to talk like, hey, this and this. They would always say good defensive teams talk, because it's just constant communication going back and forth. But when you do those things so many times, it can literally get to a point where I could be in my stance and I could just look over at Rob, or Rob could just be like, hey, Dan. And I could just look at him and I know exactly what he meant, or I know exactly what he said to do, or whatever it is. We would do hand signals a lot of times, where certain things we would do different hand signals. I remember one was knife, where somebody in the game may just think he's scratching his arm, but I know exactly what he means. We getting ready to do a twist game where Rob would just literally And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what that means. So it was literally just a communication.
Wow.
Now, when you look in the word, it's the exact same thing, because we what? All under one law. We're all under one law. It's one faith, one baptism. It's one. So at the end of the day, we all follow the same thing. So messages can be communicated between us without even uttering a word. A lot of times, one of the sayings around here is we always laugh, like somebody could be wanting to say something, or somebody could have just said something, and we'll laugh and be like, man, saying, well.
Okay, hold on, y'all.
Sorry
okay,
about
there
that.
you go.
My bad. You got that?
He back.
Yeah, somebody would always say, same spirit, you know, and it's literally that. Like, because again, we all studying the same thing. We're all being taught, you know, by the shepherd. We're all reading and going back over what he's preached or whatever. So when life comes up, where certain situations come up, you don't even have to think about it. It just happens, because the rep has been done over and over and over and over and over.
So let's do this then. So when you're out there on the football field in the game, what would the dudes who wasn't studying their book look like on the field? Talk about that, bro.
You'd be like, what's the call? What's the call? What they doing this? And next thing you know, you got somebody, boom, 80 out the gate, and they running. and you chasing them downfield, and you get back like, man, because somebody done messed up. Somebody didn't know what they was doing. Somebody
wasn't studying the book.
Nobody was looking.
And then Tony Dungy goes, poof, you're gone.
I mean, he wouldn't even raise his voice. He'd just be like, come here. He'd be like, okay, do me a favor. He'd be like, you say, go sit over here.
Damn.
That was literally it. And it's like, damn.
And that's how somebody's off the team, literally that smooth?
Man, we've seen them. We used to call it that black train. You come in one day, you see a joker next to you in your locker, and next thing you know, you come back the next day, their locker empty, and it looks like there's no equipment, no name tag on the top of the locker, nothing. So
wow.
Yeah, it gets real.
And okay, so and you heard what Brother Daniel said. He talked about what the people who wasn't studying the playbook and applying it on the field or whatever, what they look like. And let's go in on this. Were there people that studied the playbook but just didn't apply it for some reason?
No, not really, because if you're studying something over and over and over, it's going to happen naturally.
Wow, it's
good. Like the word. If you are studying the word, and again, you got people. Let me say this. You can have people who can spit to you chapter, verse, and they can know the whole entire Bible. But at the end of the day, if they're not doing what it says, it doesn't matter. I know. Excuse me. My family is from Jamaica. Right, my natural family. So, with that being said, you have a lot of. I would always look at our culture per se, and I would see Rastafarians. Well, you got a lot of Rastas who know the Bible like the back of their hand. They can give you chapter and verse for everything, but again, they're not living it, so they don't really know it. You can know all the chapters, verses, all that, but until you perform it, that's when you get the understanding. Until you actually perform it. It's the same thing today, man. I bought 2 new chainsaws, and we was out here sawing and doing this, man. We got to clear this land. We're going to clear this land. You all hyped up about it until you realize you dead tired and you ain't do nothing but cut up 4 trees. You don't understand. You have a different appreciation for it when you have studied it, but then you go perform it. You see what I mean?
Right.
So you got a different appreciation for it. And I'm just speaking off cutting 4 trees. But again, I got the experience at Straitway. I literally got the experience at Straitway. There was a tornado that went there and it knocked down a couple trees. I called Pastor. I said, Pastor, if you need help, the brothers that drive out in the morning. He said, I need help. We drove down and we spent all day cutting up trees at Straitway. I didn't know to buy chaps to put on, the things on your leg to protect you when you're chainsawing. I didn't know that you needed eyes and ear protection. I didn't know these things. I went to Straitway. I saw them. We worked one day, so I knew exactly what to buy when I came here. We were able to take what was there and put it in action. So it's literally that.
Going in on that same what we were just talking about is, like I said, I didn't know, Brother Rob, he came down here to Florida and stayed, and he was telling me about football, kind of the behind the scenes aspect. And one of the things, I thought that when you get to the NFL, you literally every single day you lifting weights and you on the field all day. And I was quite amazed because Rob was like, no, he was like, the majority of our time is in classrooms studying. I was like, whoa. I was like, that really, that amazed me. And he was like, yeah, we do. A lot of it is just studying and watching, and it's basically like warfare.
Yeah, you literally studying your opponent. That's exactly it. I mean, we would go in at 8 o'clock. Well, Rob would go in at 8 o'clock. I had to be there at 7 o'clock because I was considered a younger guy, so I had to have a meeting before the meeting.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I would be there at 7. Most guys got in early, but some guys would have early meetings. So, man, it was literally meeting for an hour. Then you go to a team meeting for about 15, 20 minutes. After that, you go to defensive meeting for about 2, maybe 3 hours. After that, no, not 3 hours, about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then after that, you would go to defensive line meetings for another hour. You go to lunch. Then you go get ready for practice. You go to practice, and then sometimes right after practice, more meetings. So it's exactly that. You spend time studying your opponent and what you're gonna have to do, what you're gonna have to go out and perform.
That's good. Well, yeah, man, brother Daniel, man, it was awesome having you on the show. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring out?
No, that's pretty much it, man. I definitely enjoyed being on the show tonight, and man, I just thank the Most High. I thank the Most High. I tell you one thing before we get out. How good does it feel to be prepared? You
Spiritually
see all this chaos,
and literally, yeah.
Hallelujah. Man, when you see the tension from people, the anger, the fussing, you walking around in joy, just smiling, because like you said, spiritually prepared and continuing to be perfected by the Most High, and then as well as physically being prepared. Man, I've said it a lot the last couple days. I thank the Most High so much for opening my eyes, and I thank him for Straitway Truth Ministries. I thank him for our leadership, our pastors, elders, deacons, and teachers. I really, truly do. So, hallelujah. I love Most High, and I love you, Israel. Bless y'all.
All right, Rob. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate all y'all tuning in. I've been wanting to do this show. I've just been real busy. I know out here in Florida, I think they're kind of putting it more on the states if they want to quarantine things and all that stuff like that. Hopefully they do it here because I got a lot of work to get caught up on. So.
I know that's right.
Yeah. Oh, but we're keeping an eye on everything. And Brother Rob, tell them about the Lion's Den. If they want to watch that, go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
So every Shabbat night, we do the Lion's Den right after Blog Talk with the Shepherd. So it's immediately after the Shepherd is done Blog Talk, we get right on to the Lion's Den, which we have a good time on there. We usually just talk about, current topics or whatever we were studying that week, or, however the Most High leads. So right after Blog Talk, and if there's no Blog Talk, we usually start sharp at 9. So Hallelujah. Tune in.
All right. So that's good. That's definitely check them out. And you're on you're on what do you call it? You're on
No, we do it on Facebook. On Facebook.
But you have a YouTube channel also that
Yes, sir.
You from time to time you put something on there also, right?
From time to time, I need to get more active on it.
And very soon, I'm gonna get them set up so they're gonna be simulcasting like me, you know. So we're gonna get them, because their show is good, man. They really be bringing it out. All right, brother Daniel, appreciate you coming on here. What did I call him, Rob? Is that what y'all said? Did I call you Rob? Did I?
You did. It's all good, bro.
Hey, y'all brothers. But anyway, hey, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you coming on. You know, we're gonna do this on the regular. I'm gonna probably have Rob come on here and discuss the same thing because Rob's been posting some stuff, just some notes he took during his NFL career to stay motivated, and this is powerful stuff. So we'll do that here soon, and y'all definitely make sure y'all go over there, check out the Lions Den. It's on Fridays at, you said 10 o'clock, usually 10 o'clock on Facebook.
Right after Blog Talk, or if there's no Blog Talk, we usually do it right at 9 p.m.
Do it at 9 p.m. All right, brother Daniel, appreciate you coming on. Shalom.
Bless you.
All right,
shalom.
Y'all. And what I'm going to do, let's see what song I'm going to take it out with here. I think we're going to do the same song we brought it in with. Let me rewind this thing. Where's it at? Okay. Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to take it out with me. Nah, actually, we're going to take it out with Let Yah Arise. That's my jam right there, man.
Hallelujah.
So with that said, y'all, appreciate y'all. Shalom.
Shalom.